So the census is being used. There's been less controversy on this one compared to 2001, but I say that there are controversies that arise from mostly from the academia rather than from the public policy environment.
So is Professor still giving you a headache?
Oh, wrong always.
Oh, goodness. Well, you know, when I think about this also, I wanted to think about what brings you to the U.S. You know, you come, you're representing Statistics South Africa, the statistician general. How do what you do in South Africa relate to your counterparts here in the United States?
Well, you know, the United Nations Statistics Commission is one of the 10 professional commissions, and it's one of the oldest, established in 1947. After the United Nations was established, you know, the League of Nations was replaced with the United Nations, UN, by the United Nations. And one of the commissions, which is very professional, is the Statistics Commission. The first task of the commission was to look at national accounts, because one of the things was, how do you measure the wealth of nations? So as a consequence, statistics came to be. So every 2 years or every then, this used to convene. Now we convene every year. So I've come to the United Nations Statistics Commission as a member, and well, I've chaired the commission over a period of time as well. But I also come as somebody who has worked on the continent of Africa for a long period of time. And Africa is making inroads into new knowledge creation as well as participating fully. You know, one of the issues that we are talking about at ACAP in 1998 in Pretoria with yourselves and Tukufu and other Africans was the absence of use of census data, how little of that data is used. Secondly, how African countries don't actually undertake censuses. As I speak to you now, we were able to rally African countries in the 2010 round. Except for Somalia, all African countries will have run a census by the end of this 2010 round, because of the energies that we have put behind this thing. Secondly, we are looking at civil registration and vital statistics as a source of information. One of the big things that is facing the globe today, and all countries and statistics communities, is this big data concept. And it's one of the things that is seizing the brains of statisticians. Is it a threat? Is it a friend or a threat? Big data. How do we tame it, if we have to tame it at all? What happens post the big data debate between statisticians and the what you call data scientists? All those things are in the pot, and of course, statisticians run around with what they call the 10 fundamental principles of official statistics of quality and so on. Big data, while it may have quality, but transactional information, what is on the internet, what is up there, at times doesn't have the quality that official statistics has. And if, as a form of knowledge that is more epistemological, which is statistics, we need to actually attend to that, because it is that information that accounts for societal development. So this is what is bringing me to New York, the tradition of 1947 up to now, but looking at measurement and improving on the science of measurement of societies, and see how with better statistics we can have better development outcomes.
Yeah, well,
and well, you know, Rio plus 20 is one of those things that you know.
Right. Well, I'm glad it keeps bringing you back. We get a chance to connect.
Indeed.
And I look forward to coming back on that side. One of the things that was a driving force while I was in South Africa, especially when I lived there in '95, some young men pushed me to understand a concept called Ubuntu. And then Ubuntu swept across the country in terms of it being infused in everything, and the logos and all kinds of things that we saw it. Maybe you could just tell us a little bit about Ubuntu and how and if that plays a part in the statistics as well.
I think it does, because you know, Ubuntu is more, it's about you are because I am, and I am because you are. So that's what ties us together. And in statistics, particularly censuses, where I know everybody, you count because I count. So it comes to that level of human relations, that you count because I count, and I count because you count. And in the census, is a finite and definitive expression of Ubuntu. Well, how do you use the data having got it? Of course, to improve life, to improve neighborliness, and the like. And Ubuntu is a very strong concept in South Africa. It lives on, and you could see it in the World Cup, you could see it in the AFCON Cup of Nations more recently. South Africa say, yes, we'll step in when Libya cannot hold the African Cup of Nations, and we will do everything to make sure that whatever would have happened in Libya would even happen better in South Africa, in AFCON. That's what entrenches the concept of Ubuntu. It doesn't mean that there are no challenges. There are very, very serious challenges in South Africa of poverty, unemployment, and inequality that corrodes the very spirit of Ubuntu.
Well, I mean, that's a powerful thing. You hinted at it, this document that you want to work on, this book, looking at the trajectory from 1914 to 2014. How does that fit within the legacy of what you bring to the table for Statistics South Africa?
It's a very difficult one. I mean, people want to forget the history of apartheid, and probably don't want to be associated with what happened. The problem is, as an incumbent of any office or any structure, you embrace the bad and the good. And that being so, you cannot run away from the bad. In fact, the power that you derive from understanding what was bad and differentiating it from what is good, it is that differentiation that makes for change and propels people to protect the change that is there. If you cannot know what was bad and you can only see what is good, you are less likely to protect what is good, because you do not know what bad can be and how bad it can be. So it's very, very important to take this long-range view of life from when it started in about 1914, the Statistics Office, in terms of even looking at apartheid itself. I mean, if you look at the blue book that is there, and how the census was run, the slaves, the blacks, the whites, the differentiation of what information was collected among blacks and what was collected amongst whites was an entrenchment of. So statistics was an instrument of discrimination, because it was not covering all people equally. And one of the key things now that we are exercising is the 10 fundamental principles, where everybody before statistics is equal. And I think that difference can be seen in the 20 years compared to the years prior, the years of apartheid. And of course, I worked in the homeland, which is a very interesting experience that I had that reflects the difference between then and now. I was a product, of course, of the apartheid system by virtue of working in an apartheid environment. Of course, I trained in Lesotho, and that's where I was born and bred, but I moved into South Africa and found myself right in the middle of of apartheid structures and working in the homeland. And now, working at the helm in a statistics office, it's a very fulfilling. You can see the change, you can relate to it. If it doesn't get captured, then I would have been derelict of duty to provide for generations in South Africa the legacy that they well deserve from 1914 to 2014. I mean, South Africa is one of the countries